Hello Flosstube, Elizabeth Martinez, phantastitches, here with my Flosstube update number 388. Today is Saturday, May 31st, so tomorrow is the beginning of June, excuse me. Sorry, just had lunch and I wanted to make sure I didn't have any food on my face. So tomorrow starts June, and I've got all my June projects and the rest of the summer going on. So very busy. As I was thinking about the song "June is Busting Out All Over" from one of my least favorite musicals, Carousel. When I was starting my senior year in high school, through the 5 years that I was in college, I took 5 years. So over those 6 years, I played with in the pit orchestra for the Albuquerque Civic Light Opera. I don't even know if it still exists, nowadays. But in those days, we did, I don't know, like maybe 5 musicals a season, 4 or 5. And I played with them for 6 years. So, and I know I did like at least 30 shows with them. I think the first one I did was Oliver. And I did like Oklahoma, Man of La Mancha, My Fair Lady, things like that. But one of the ones we did was Carousel. And you may not know the title of it or whatever, but there's a song, June is busting all over, June is busting out all over, whatever. And a few other songs. And I'm not crazy about the musical. And I also ended up doing it when I lived in Little Rock. Some high school was performing it, and someone called me up and asked me if I would play in the orchestra for that, so I did. But anyway, so yeah, June is busting out all over. Is what I thought of when I was thinking about this video. But before I do that, I want to talk about I'm being protected by the Squishmallow Army. This is the little monster, and this is the little cactus. These are in McDonald's Happy Meals nowadays. This is a little bat. And this is the little kitty cat. So, I usually don't get too caught up in the McDonald's Happy Meal things. I'm not a little kid. I don't need all these little toys. But there was one time when I guess one of the what do you call that? 101 Dalmatians came out, and I don't know if it was one of the live action ones or something, because I know the original one came out when I was a kid, so I guess it was a live action 101 Dalmatians, but they had little Dalmatians, all the little dogs in the Happy Meals, and they had a bazillion of them, and I had a whole bunch of those because they were so cute, and I was collecting them. I was getting Happy Meals, and I had a whole bunch of them. And I finally said, okay, I've got to get rid of them. And I ended up, I don't know if I took them to Goodwill or whatever, but I got rid of them, And so I usually don't do that, because, go to get the Happy Meal stuff, because it's just, little kid stuff, whatever. But I think I have a Squishmallow, a regular big Squishmallow that my niece gave me from, I don't know, for Christmas, my birthday or something. But then when they put these in the Happy Meals, I got them. And they're not like, they're just little stuffy toys. But, I just threw one across the room. Oh well, I'll get him later. But anyway, so yeah, that's my new obsession, is the little Squishmallow toys. Anyway. So let's talk about cross stitch instead of Squishmallows. So I was working on, of course, my May WIPGO things, and I had met the goals. I had finished one project and met the goal on another. Let me get my little chart over here to make sure I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Wayfaring Stranger was the one I finished last time. And the Raccoon was the other one I was working on, and I showed that last time, and I had hit that goal. And I was thinking that maybe, you know, maybe I wanted to put a little more time in it, but I haven't, and whatever. I don't feel it's, you know, quite the urge that I felt before. So I don't know. But I'm in a good place for it, so that next time I pick it up, I probably will be able to finish it. And with all of these Year in the Woods patterns, I'm trying to get them to the point where, even though the ones that are left are probably not close enough to be finished, you know, whenever they come up in WIPGO, but I'm trying to get them to the point that the next time around, when I get to them, that I'll be able to finish them. Of the 12 Year in the Woods patterns, the only one I finished so far is the number 1, the fox. But the other ones are pretty close, you know. So little by little, maybe I'll get them done just in time for the new set that College Garden Samplings is coming out with. Sorry, I keep moving the camera around. They're doing another Year in the Woods series, number 2, and they just released the first one. I think I talked about this last week, called the Wolf. So yeah, so I'll probably end up eventually getting that series, but probably maybe not till the whole series has come out. So maybe next year I'll have, because I think the first one is releasing in June. This first, they've shown pictures of it, but I think the first release date is June for the number 1 of that series. Anyway, so so what I had left was, you know, for each square on my WIPGO board, I have a whip and a new start. So I had done the 2 whips, and I had just the 2 new starts left. And I don't know, I may have shown part of this. Sorry, this is all, you know, kind of crunched up. I have it on my bed, and one of my cats, like, has a tendency, my cat Snug, has a tendency to lie down and then, like, lay back on top of my stitches. I'm like, my glasses and my phone and my whatever. I'm like, get up, get up. But anyway, so the other day I had this on my bed, and I came back. I had gone to the bathroom or to get something to eat or something. Came back, and sorry about you can see the pattern, but there's a big hole there. And it's just a PDF, you know, so I can reprint it and whatever, but it's like you went and tore a big hole in it. Anyway, this is Let It Snow. And this is how far I got it. Because I was really, you know, I was gonna just stitch a little bit on this and then, you know, get to my other new start. But then I wanted to dye some fabric for that, and so I put off getting started on it. So I worked on this one. So I did the inner border all the way around. This outer border, you know, I still need to do, but then I did do the little cardinal, the little bird, and then there's a bunch of other stuff. There's a little branch across here, a bunch of snow and snowflakes like this, and the words "Let It Snow" on the bottom. But I didn't do the cardinal. There's some back stitching in his hat and scarf here and on the bird itself. But otherwise, the bird is done, and it's just all this other stuff. All the rest of the, you know, the branch and the leaves and the, you know, yeah, I forgot about these little pine leaves. But yeah, so, and I won't do any more stitching on that this month because the month is over basically. And so, Parade of Elephants, this is by Hello from Liz Matthews. Not to be confused with A Parade of Elephants by The Blue Flower, which I already did. But this one, I thought, I like this also. This is more elephants. You can never have too many elephants. I started on this one. And like I said, I wanted to do a light wash of like maybe green or blue because those are the two colors I had available to me. And because I have an aversion to stitching on white. I've talked about that before. But I didn't want anything too bold because of all the colors and all the stuff, you know, going on in this pattern. You know, so I was going to do just a light wash of green, you know, to not compete with all those colors. But I forgot. I forgot when I was dyeing fabrics and all that. It was in the bottom of the pile, and I forgot it. And so originally I was going to stitch it on this 25 count Lugana. And this is in the color Pearl. So it's a sort of soft white. But like I said, I forgot. And I had already cleaned up, thrown away the dye water and, you know, done this and that and cleaned it all up. And then I realized when I was putting my stuff away, oh, look, I forgot to dye this. And, but then I thought back that, you know, when I was looking at fabrics, one of the things I did have was this piece of 28 count Lugana in this sort of a light pink. And I had, you know, just kind of dismissed it just because I thought, man, I don't want to use that color, whatever. But when I did sort of a floss toss on it, I thought, these colors look pretty good on this. And so I went ahead and started it. And so I did this is the outer border around there, and this one flower and this little thingy and this bird, and I really wanted to work my way down. This is like the top of the little flag that the elephant, the first elephant, is holding. This little flag. So I did this little one stitch there. So I have this bird and this little diamond and this flower, and I have part of this border, right? And I wanted to do this outer border so I could have something to sort of, you know, count on and do these other things. And so I started on this is the first elephant, right? And I had gotten, actually, I was all the way, I had done this, I had done his leg, did the outline of the elephant. I was so happy. I had done like all of this here, and the ear, and I was working my way down here on his body. I had done a tail, and I did this outer part of the leg and this part of the leg, and I was gonna do this, and I realized I'm too close to the border. I don't have enough room between where I am now and the border. There's not enough, you know, it's like, I don't know, 6 or 7 stitches or something like that, or whatever. And I'm in the wrong place. I counted something wrong, and I thought maybe I had not done enough stitches here and put this too soon, or I had not counted enough here, counted where the elephant starts. I thought maybe I was too high, too low. And so I was counting and counting, and no, that's all right, that's all right. What it was is right here. And I was all the way, you know, almost to on the back end of the elephant. And what it was is this set of 3, 3 sets of 2, right? I had only done 2 of them. I started this diagonal thing where I was supposed to have done another set of 2. So the whole thing was wrong, and there was no real way to fudge it. I would have had to fudge his whole body, you know, make him like shorter. And so I thought, okay, I'll just go back and fix it. So I pulled out, I had this eye and ear stuff. I pulled all of that out, and I got to this point and I started on the eye again, and then I had gotten the eye and I was working on it, and I was gonna do this and do the ear and all this stuff, and I just looked at the back to check it, and I realized there's a big knot back here where his eye was, so I decided to frog it all out again. And this time I got there, and the thread broke, because I've gone through it however many times, and so it just kind of wore out. And so I just pulled it all out. So now there it is. So later on today, if I'm not too tired, I'll be stitching on some more of that and try to get this elephant, at least the outline of this elephant, done. But anyway, that's where I am. My saga of the ill-fated elephant. But the colors look really good on this. This is my little corner marker, sorry. But the red really stands out. All these other colors that are in there, I think are going to look really good on it, because it's a very light pink. It's light enough that it's not going to interfere with it, and yeah, it's a very nice color. And I want to say I was looking through my fabrics, right, for all these projects I have coming up, and I could have sworn I had a whole bunch of 28 Lugana. I talked about this last time, that I could have sworn I had it, and I went through the fabrics and didn't see it, and so I went out and bought this 28 count even weave at Hobby Lobby. Sorry, I'm very thirsty. But so I had gone through this bag I have that my brother bought at Christmas. I would say he bought it for me. He didn't buy it for me. He bought it for my other sister. She and I traded, because this one has an elephant on front. Anyway, so I had, at one point, I have like one of those plastic sterilite drawer unit things, and well, I have two of them. I have one in the closet and one by my bed. And the one by my bed, I had plastic Ziploc bags of fabric in it. And so I had pulled those out and put them in the elephant bag. And in going through them, I had sort of sorted them, right? So I had a bag of like kind of scraps where I had, used part of it, but I had a good size of it left. And so I put it in this bag of scraps. And there were all different kinds of different cuts of fabric in there. And then I had a bag of like larger pieces of 28 count Lugana or whatever, but they're like 20 by 30 or something like that, really big pieces. I thought, if I do another big pattern like Pandemic's on one of those giant pieces of, or if I do something that has several several smaller patterns, like Black Archangels. I did that on a big piece, and so that they're all the same, whatever. Those larger pieces, I kind of want to set those aside. I want to save them for a special bigger projects, whatever. But I have I could have sworn I had a whole bunch of 28 count Lugana, a whole bunch of Marana Carre, whatever, and they weren't in there. So I thought, oh, well, I guess I must have used them at some point. But anyway, so I was looking for something else in my closet, and I had that other drawer in there, and I opened it up, and there's another bag in there. I thought, what's in that bag? And it was a bag that my sister Naomi had bought me on one of her trips to Boston. And it was a big canvas zipper bag with lobsters all over the front of it. I don't have it here with me, so sorry. But it has lobsters, and then it has like the handles are made out of like a thick, like sailor's rope or whatever. And then it has the zipper, and the zipper pulls a little lobster. So anyway, I had that lobster bag. And in the lobster, so I opened up the lobster bag, and in there were 2 Ziploc bags of fabric. there was a big old stack of 28 count Lugana, a big old stack like this, of all kinds of pieces, and some even weave in there, I think, also. But it was all, because in this bag was my fabric I need to dye. And so it was all this white stuff, all the white 28 count, and a bag of, like, had a couple of pieces of Hardinger, some Ada, but also a whole bunch of, like, 32 count Murano Carré, which Hobby Lobby used to carry and doesn't really carry anymore. And also things like some Belfast linen and Bristol linen and things like that. So it's like all this treasure trove of fabrics, and I'm like, Anyway, so now I have all this fabric. I know that I have it now. So as things come up, I've got fabric to dye. Anyway, so that was my Parade of Elephants saga, that all that fabric. And I'll get to the other fabric I dyed. But so for June, the WIPGO numbers came out, and they're number 21 and 23. And so this is my last row of my WIPGO things. And you'll see these I have them marked in light blue. And what happened was I had actually run out of whips when I was making this chart, of the whips that I had with me, because a lot of my stuff is in storage, including my older set of whips that I have. And I've been, like, doing stuff and sort of finishing things. And so of all the whips that I had, left to make my new chart for this year, I had, like said, several of them had been sent to storage. And so when I was making this chart, I had run out of whips. And so I did some, in that last week, I did pieces that were part of another series. So they're technically a whip, but technically a new start. So anyway, one of the ones, my number 21 set that I did was Black Cat Season. So Black Cat Season is a series of charts, but they're all separate charts. So number 6 is the last one I have left to do. So there are 6 charts in this series, Black Cat Season. And this one it's pretty easy. It's just the cat and the moon are the ones that are sort of dense stitching, and the rest of it is pretty easy individual stitches, right? Those little lines and the little purple diamond, star kind of shapes. But anyway, and the words Black Cat Season, that's pretty easy to do. So I didn't take this out of the hoop because there's the whole series of them here, and this is the number 5 one, and so number 6 goes down here. So I will have to move the hoop before I start stitching on this. But anyway, so this is where Black Cat Season, the final chart, is going to go. And then if I can finish that, then I will have finished all the stitching on this bell pull, and then I just have to figure out how to actually finish it, which won't happen until I can get to a sewing machine and all that, which won't happen until we sell this house, probably. Anyway, so that's Black Cat Season. So that's my June WIPGO first whip. And then the other one I have that was called for this, number 25, is Calling of the Sea. And again, this is part of a series of 3 charts, this Calling of the Sea. And I did one of them last year for cross-stitch camp. I did this ship. But this pattern set comes with 3, right? There's a whale, a compass, a ship's compass, and the ship itself. So I did this one because I really wanted to do the whale last year. I think it was the first time I'd done a Stacy Nash, so this is probably August. And I really want to do this whale, but it's pretty big. It's 145 by 112. So I didn't do that. I did the ship. Because it's only 77 by 73. Well, the compass is another chart, and this is 68 by 65, and this is the one that came up on WIPGO. So I wanted to use the same fabric that I had used for the ship, and that's this one. This is a scrap that it was in my scrapbook, my scrap bag. So I had, this is where I did the ship. It was on one of these. This one probably, I don't know. But I had this left over. So I thought, maybe I can do the whale and the compass on this favorite piece of fabric. Well, for the whale, it's like an inch too short this way and half an inch too short that way. And I didn't want to, I thought, well, maybe I could, I could fudge the little finishing margins, whatever. But I didn't want to run out of space because it would have been very tight if I had done that, and I didn't want to. So I decided, well, I can do the compass on this, and I can use that fabric for something else. And for the whale, I can just do a separate thing. So I dyed some fabric, and I dyed this. This is not quite as blue, a pretty happy blue as this. This is to me a very cheerful kind of skyish blue. It's blowing out a little bit on there, but it's a nice medium blue, and this is a little bit greener blue, but I think that'll work for the whale. I can put the whale on that. And so anyway, so that's the compass is the one that's officially called. So that is another my June whip. But in my whips, I also have in my WIPGO chart, I have a whip and a new start for each square, right? So for June, the two new starts, both number 21 and number 23, are Stacy Nash animal crackers, her animal cracker series. So number 21 is Blizzard, this little fox, and it comes with a little hot cocoa or coffee or whatever you want to call it. I think it's a needle book. So it has this little box and the needle book, and it's not quite full coverage. I mean, there's a little space here. This is the fabric here, right? But you stitch it, and the model was done on 36 count, and I am going to do it on 32 count, and this is I think I'm doing it on 32 count. This is I want to say it's Marana Carré. I have it written down somewhere. But anyway, so this is number 21, Blizzard. And then number 23 is another animal cracker, and that is Millie. This is this little elephant. Now, Millie doesn't have a smaller, secondary thing to go with it, but Millie is wearing a hat. And then you could, if you like, in this picture, she just tied, some other objects on Millie's back. So you could, theoretically, you could do that for a display. But anyway, so this is Millie. And also, she was done on 36 count, and I'm doing this on 32 count. I thought about doing it on 46 count, doing all these patterns, because I had like 3 pieces. I could do all of the animal crackers on 46 count, because that would make them smaller, because they kind of look smallish in these pictures, but they're actually pretty big. Like the finished size for Millie's not that big, 5 inches wide by 4.5 high, right? But Blizzard, this little fox, is 8.5 inches high. So 8.5, that's pretty good, good size. So yeah, they're bigger than they seem when you first glance at them. But since I was doing these two, I wanted the fabric for the third one that I have, which is Chili, this little penguin, and this has a snowman. I wanted it to be more or less the same fabric. And so, so the finish size on this one is actually 6 inches tall for the actual penguin. And I think the snowman is 3 inches tall, right? So I went ahead and dyed 4 pieces of this fabric, this 32 count fabric. Because that way I've got 3 for the main things, and I've got an extra one for the little accessories, just to make sure that I had, you know, enough fabric for all of them. So they're all the same color. I dyed them all in the same like dye bath. But so it's a very light minty green color. You can't see it very well in the videos, but it's kind of a minty green color. But I did like 4 pieces of it, so it could all, you know, turn out the same. So they would all be the same. So I did this for my animal crackers. So 2 of them I will start in June, sometime in June, and I don't have any specific goals of, you know, how long, how many days, or how many stitches I do or whatever. So as long as I get them started for June, that'll be enough. So then that brings me again to, I've talked about this before, about cross stitch camp and the challenge for each month of cross stitch camp. So so the one I'm starting on now is June, and it's the, you know, stitch something that with a motif that indicates whether you're a day or a nighttime stitcher. And since I stitch both day and night, I'm doing Celestial Sisters by Silver Creek Samplers. And this is a Biscornu, and so there's a daytime side and a nighttime side. And so I wanted to kind of replicate. This is, you know, has a lighter blue fabric for the day and a dark one for the night. And so I dyed mine. This is not quite as light as I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be a little bit lighter blue, but it ended up being a little bit darker than I had intended. Let me put this behind it so the sun doesn't shine. So it's, try to get this in there, yeah. So it's kind of a lightish blue, and the nighttime one is a little bit darker blue. But this is also 28 count even weave. Yeah, so these 2 shades, you can kind of, you know, you can tell the difference. One is night and one is day. So this is my June cross stitch camp piece. So I'm hoping to start it tomorrow. I haven't. One thing I didn't do yet is it's all DMC for this pattern, and so I have to pull those threads. I haven't pulled them all. Some of them are actually in my bags for Let It Snow and Parade of Elephants. They use some of the same colors, so I can just, you know, grab them from those bags, and then the others I have to look for in my fabric stash. But also, when I was dyeing fabric, I was dyeing for the rest of my cross stitch camp pieces. So for July, stitch one of your favorite designers. So one of my favorites is Tracy Horner of Ink Circles. This is Forget Me Nots. This is part of the Night Garden series. And it's another elephant, yes. So I dyed this little, again, this green, minty green swatch fabric. It looks, you know, whitish on the camera here, but it's again very light green, and I think it'll complement the greens and blues that are in this pattern, that are in the Night Garden palette. There's not a whole lot of green in the It's there in the leaves under the flowers. It's mostly blue, and it has that that sort of it's kind of a beige, color there, and yeah. But anyway, so yeah, so I dyed this little minty green color for the background of that one. And then my other Cottage Camp thing is the Starry Starry Night Biscornu. That's this one here. This is a new designer to me, Cosford Rise Stitchery. And so this Biscornu is done on very dark blue fabric. I think Mystic, I think is what the name of the fabric is. But so for that one then, I did dye 2 pieces of 18 count Ada. So I made it a little bit darker than the dark blue that I'm using for the Celestial Sisters. It's a slightly different shade blue. Maybe it's not darker. But anyway, so I dyed these 2 pieces of 18 count fabric. And I think it'll show up well with these are the thread colors. So the only one I was concerned about with this was this blue, and it kind of like outlines the clouds, and so it should show up okay. It's light enough, I think, against this darker blue fabric that it'll be okay. But these are the colors. These are all Gentle Arts colors that are on there, and this is. In the model, in the picture of the model, the black is a little hard to see on the pattern. You can see it here around this star. And I think it'll show up well enough on that 18 count, on that blue that I did for that. So anyway, that's the Biscornu. This is August. So yeah, I've got a lot of stitching to do this summer because of course in July and August I'll have whatever the numbers are for WIPGO. But so for June I have 5 projects that I'm going to be stitching on, right? The Black Cat Season and the Animal Crackers Blizzard is my one WIPGO call. And the other WIPGO call is Calling of the Sea Compass and Animal Crackers Millie. And the Black Cat Season should go pretty quickly, pretty easily, and the Calling of the Sea Compass should go pretty quickly because it's a pretty small pattern. Millie and Blizzard, they don't, like I said, I don't have any specific goals on them. As long as I get them started, they'll be fine. But the main thing I want to concentrate on is the Celestial Sisters Biscornu. Cottage, the Silver Creek Samplers thing, because the goal, of course, with Cross Stitch Camp is to start on the 1st and finish by the end of the month, and and I would kind of like to do that, but it's a lot of stitching for those for the Biscornu. Both of those, both sides of that Biscornu are a lot of stitching, I think. So that's going to be sort of my priority, I think. I'd like to finish Black Cat Season. I'd like to finish that, but we'll see how that goes. But anyway, so I've got my work cut out for me for this summer. My summer stitching list, if you will, is pretty heavy. And of course, we're still trying to sell our house. And we've had, this week actually, we've had 3 showings. I think Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and this morning. Something like, we've had a whole bunch. So yeah. I don't know, we've had at least 3 showings this week. And so, it's that time of year, basically. It's the end of the school year has ended, and people are looking to, get their move done, especially here in Phoenix. You know, you want to move before it gets really, 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 really hot. It's already really hot, but you know, you want to move before it gets really, really hot. It's like bumping 100 right now, so, you know, but it'll be bumping up probably 120 by July. So it'd be nice to get all that sweaty moving work done, you know, at the early part of the summer. So we're hoping that hopefully this flurry of showings will result in something. You know, somebody needs this house. So, you know, we're praying that it'll work out for the best. My cats are certainly hoping that it'll happen quickly, because they hate, you know, we have to get the cats out of the house, and I've got to, you know, put all the cat stuff away, and you know, that, you know, for people to look at it, and so we have to take all the pets out, the dogs and the cats. We have sort of a routine, but the cats, you know, they kind of know the jig is up when I'm, you know, sweeping and putting things away, and they're like, what's happening? What's happening? But fortunately, they're still kind of a little bit clueless, like Snug, you know. Usually if Puck is kind of snoozing and Snug is kind of lying there at the bed, I can grab Snug and I stick him in the closet, and Puck, I'll grab and put him in the bathroom. And sort of, it's sort of my routine. And you know, Puck, you know, once he goes in the bathroom, he knows that I'm gonna put him in the carrier, and he's like mad, you know, he's like what I call cussing the whole time, you know, and yeah, so it's an ordeal for the cats to have to go through that, but hopefully, you know, we won't have to do it too much more. Anyway, that's our ordeal lately. But so, like I said, I've got the month of June is a lot of stitching on the line, and I'm going to be doing that, trying to diligently do that. But today, for the rest of the day, I want to get that, at least the outline of that first elephant done. Would be really nice to get that finished. I'm just going to have to, like again, you know, start with a new piece of thread and start that over again. All that stuff that I had pulled out. I was so proud of myself, and then I had to pull it all out. But anyway, so that is all I have for now. And yeah, that's it. So like I said, June is busting out all over. I got a whole bunch of stitching to do for the month of June. And yeah, so I'm gonna go, today's the last day of May. I finished working on an elephant, and yeah, and then find the threads for my June stitching. Okay, so I will thank you again for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye.